Well, welcome back, everyone. This is the second part of our four-part series on FinPath, Hub's financial wellness tool. My name is Colin Clark, and I'm joined again by my colleague, Matt Escalante, out of our Austin office, and he is in charge of our FinPath program. So welcome back.
Thanks, Colin. Thank you.
Yeah, so in the first segment, we kind of did an overview of financial wellness, the trends, and how FinPath works and why someone would look at that program. But we kind of want to dig in a little deep, get under the hood a little bit. There's a lot of data that's out there about the urgency around American savings habits, their financial health, and how it ties in to the organization, and specifically productivity, absenteeism, things like that. So Matt, can you give us some of the things that you're seeing out in the marketplace that why a plan sponsor would consider implementing something like FinPath as a program?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reality of the situation is that financial stress is real, and it affects the majority of Americans, no matter, and it's across ages and income and education, all those types of things. And what I think is important, and the statistics will tell us, is that it's not necessarily those folks that are maybe considered low income earners. It can span across a lot of different income levels. But the stats will tell us that 67% of Americans are worried about their personal finance on a regular basis. 46% of folks can't afford to cover $1,000 emergency, which also means that 46% of people can't walk into an Apple store and buy an iPhone with cash. Like, they have to go through the process of financing it. So if you think of it from a different perspective, not necessarily emergency, but even a purchase that folks might want to make, almost half of Americans can't afford to do that. Folks are really focused on this concept of financial independence, even more so than traditional just retirement savings. And if I'm an employer, I want to think about that and if I'm designing a benefits package, what does that mean? Like that obviously some of those core things are your standard employee benefits, your 401k plan, those types of items. But what are some things I can be doing in addition to that, that want of employees to feel like they're getting or working towards financial independence? And just kind of hitting on the last one is that, 1 in 4 Americans that make over $160,000 a year live paycheck to paycheck. And so it's not necessarily more income that solves this problem for folks. And in a lot of cases, more income just kind of throws gasoline on a fire that's already burning in a situation where somebody has poor financial habits. It's really about giving them the tools, the resources, and support so that they can build better financial habits with the income and the resources they have. And ultimately, that will lead to reduced financial stress for employees. And we all know that the benefits of having employees that have a reduced amount of financial stress leads to less absenteeism, higher levels of production, better relationships at work and at home. So it becomes a win-win situation for the employee and the employer that's providing the program.
Well, one of the statistics that you guys talk about on the FinPath website is 42% of millennials have not started saving for retirement at all. Now, I'm going to venture to say that some of that has to do with student loan debt, because when I talk to plan sponsors, they're having problems, getting people to defer into their retirement plan, for instance, because they're too concerned with their consumer debt or their student loan debt. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And, what we've done on the platform is tried to find tools that will help people with student loan debt, whether it's taking advantage of a government program or taking advantage of a program that may be working within their employer. So we're super excited about like Secure 2.0. That's got so it's got some things in there that will allow people to obviously still pay down their student debt, but also at the same time participate in some employer matches that go into group retirement plans. So that is something that where people were to traditionally not savings, and a part of those statistics that you just mentioned, Colin, because they were paying down to so much retirement savings at the same time. So that should be a good thing.
Yeah, and I heard a really fascinating statistic this week that it's 50 percent of people over 55 have never even opened up their retirement statement. And then you guys have a statistic saying 28% of people over 55 have no retirement savings.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an unfortunate place to be. We know that the desire is out there for folks to want to achieve that level of financial independence, but have not, whether due to circumstances, have not participated into a retirement plan, whether it's just on their own in an IRA or part of a group retirement plan with their employers in a 401k. It's just that there's been a lack of savings within, I guess, maybe the American culture that has starting to show up in the statistics that you mentioned.
Well, FinPath is very holistic too. So, not just focusing on the retirement side of things, but there are a couple other things that I think about. When I'm doing one-on-one meetings with employees, I find that people are severely underinsured. Does FinPath address, kind of from a holistic perspective, people's financial life and all those different coverages and things that you should be thinking about?
Yeah, absolutely. And this was a big part of why FinPath even came into an existence is, we spent a lot of time, like over the course of my career, is whether it was employee benefits or retirement, going out and doing education to really focus on the efficacy. So people were making the most out of those benefits that they were being provided. And what I kind of just learned sitting knee to knee with folks is that whether it was, figuring out whether you should elect the high or low dental plan, or whether it was, putting how much money I should put away for retirement savings, is that people were making compromises, and like whether it was declining benefits, or even if we flat out told somebody that it's going to be $100 or $300 or $500 a month that they need to put into their retirement account in order to reach the goal that they've set forth, that's when you would see the wheels turning in folks' head, and the compromise of basically saying, you know what, I just can't afford to do that. And we knew that in that moment we had to have a service out there that really helped all employees, again, from surviving to thriving, knowing that there's going to be different stages along the way. And if we're going to be providing, this education and this wellness initiative, we can't just say, hey, for that person that can't afford to save the appropriate amount to meet the retirement goal, is, well, come back to us whenever you're ready. Like, we need to wrap a program around these folks and figure out why, like what's happening in their world and so forth. So the approach now becomes within FinPath is that if somebody does come connect with a financial coach or does use the technology, but more specifically connecting with a financial coach, is obviously we want to take care of anything that might be acute that's causing some level of financial stress, but then also to start to ask questions about your financial goals that they might have in place. And we often talk about whether it's retirement or college savings or something like that is probably like common goals for a lot of folks. It may not be the most immediate goal for a lot of folks as well. And it could be about, getting out of debt, or building a budget that's easier, repeatable, that's about, creating emergency savings, or evaluating insurance coverages so we can take care of some of those more foundational items in order to move them across that spectrum of surviving to thriving, and get them in a situation where they're putting money towards goals because they have a better understanding of how their money is being spent.
Well, and you mentioned financial stress, and I don't want to. I want to make sure we emphasize properly that financial stress is the number one stress of the workplace, and the number one cause for absenteeism and lack of productivity. So, if my employees are financially well, they're going to be more productive at work, which is going to lead to improved bottom line. One thing that I hear all the time is that when employees are not financially well, they blame their employer. But when they are financially well, they give the employer all the credit in the world.
Yeah, I think people look back to their employer and look at what are the resources that an employer is wrapping around us in terms of benefits. And that's really important one. So if you have an employee that's financially stressed, and that person becomes, obviously vulnerable in terms of impacting production, but that person also becomes, that person that might leave your company as well. And we all know how hard it is to attract good talent nowadays, which is with the job market the way it is, but also, retain those people that are good quality employees in place. And, utilizing a financial wellness program like FinPath, I think of it as both. I think of it both as attraction and retention. And if you have good quality employees that are in place that you want to keep, but that employee is dealing with some level of financial stress, that's when they look at, can I make $1 more an hour, or can I make $5,000 more a year? It doesn't really take much for that individual to start looking, because they feel like the only thing that's going to solve that feeling of stress is to be getting a higher wage. But in reality, if a program like FinPath can come into play and really help that individual to diagnose what's causing the financial stress and help them work through it, then you have a better chance of retaining that employee, a good quality worker that you wanted to keep anyway. At the same time, eliminating the possibility of that cost and time and resources that are associated with having to hire back in that position.
Yeah, that's a great point. So that's wonderful. As we wrap up right now, we're going to come back in the third segment and talk really what it's like. What's the user experience like? You mentioned the word ecosystem, and so I'm really curious to understand a little bit more about how you define that and how that fits into the organization. So we understand that financial wellness is a big trend in our industry, in our business, and in employee benefits. Kind of the nexus of employee benefits and retirement. And then, we also discussed, there's some really compelling statistics around how we can really move the needle and improve our employees' lives and improve the organizational productivity and improve the bottom line at all of our companies by, implementing a program like this. And so, Matt, I want to thank you so much. We'll come back for our third segment and talk about the user system, the user experience, and the ecosystem. So, Matt, thanks again.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. Looking forward to what's next.
That's going to do it for this week's show. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy our show, we'd love for you to subscribe on iTunes or wherever you access your podcasts. The opinions voiced in this program are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, financial, or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, and SIPC. Investment advice offered through Global Retirement Partners, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Global Retirement Partners, Washington Financial Group, a division of Hub International Mid-Atlantic, and Hub International are not affiliated with LPL Financial. Global Retirement Partners, LPL Financial, Washington Financial Group, and Hub International are not affiliated in any way with the services offered by any guest on this show.
Poor Jeff, he's having to listen to this conversation. All right, hopefully Jeff can edit that, right?